All right, this is David Turley with Zoom Group 4 or 5. We're not quite sure. We're going with it. Talking about the Day of Silence assignment. I'll kind of get started off. Whenever I was reading the case, I felt like there was a couple of things that were super important or that kind of stood out to me as a principal trying to look at making a decision here. I noticed that the students participating in the Day of Silence seemed like they went about it the right way. They spoke to the principal ahead of time and talked about what it was and what their purpose was, and didn't go out and like approach anybody specifically and like target anyone. They seemed they had tables set up on the side. They let people come up to them, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, the other students seemed to go about it kind of the wrong way because he was going around targeting certain kids who had participated in the Day of Silence. And I think, like, I know they mentioned like the separation of church and state and stuff, but I feel like that wouldn't have even mattered if he had not gone about and was being disruptive to the school environment. And that seemed to be the big deal here, is that he was being disruptive to the school environment to the point where a teacher called for the principal. He had everybody's attention and the principal had to call him in, and then he continued with it even after he was told to stop. That seemed to be the bigger thing for me looking at it, that he was just being disruptive to the school environment and targeting students rather than actually the content of what was going on.
Yeah, I think that was probably the major issue there, was the fact that he was disruptive and like forceful in the way that he approached the kids. And in the article, it mentions Tinker Des Moines. I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, but it was like several students wore armbands to protest the Vietnam War, and the principal suspended them because he felt it disrupted what was going on. And then the kids ended up winning the case because they were not disrupting what was going on in the school. And so I think, like David said, if the guy hadn't made such a big deal about it and disrupted what it was going on, it wouldn't have been a religious issue, and there probably wouldn't have been lawyers or lawsuits involved in general.
Here's the question: was his freedom of speech violated? That's one of the things that the article talks about. When I read the case, it seems that he was doing this in the hallways and in the maybe in the cafeteria. So if you're talking about disrupting the instructional environment, are they talking particularly about the classroom disruption? Because he didn't appear to be disruptive in the classroom. So I think that's where the lawsuit came in. And also under the 14th Amendment, he felt like he didn't get due process, which means that he didn't get a chance really to address the issue before he was reprimanded. And plus, he didn't feel like he was being treated equally. When I looked at the case and I thought about the history of, what is it called? The Day of Silence by, is it Glenn? It seems that the principals should have been aware that usually after that happens, that there's always someone that tries to have a day of truth. So I think that maybe they should have been more vigilant in heading that off, because I think they should have known what's coming. This is my opinion.
Well, it sounded like the principal didn't know what the Day of Silence was even. I've never even heard of the Day of Truth. I haven't heard of that before, but I know about the Day of Silence. Mm-hmm. So like the principal didn't know about the Day of Silence, so it makes me think that they obviously didn't know about this other one either.
Yeah, no, it didn't sound like she knew about either of them. But I mean, regardless, there were students, there weren't even just teachers that came to the principal saying, oh, he's being disruptive. There were students saying he was being forceful and pushing things on them. And, and that's just like harassment in and of itself,
Well, they said they felt uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Well, it also said that he was trying to push things on them and grab the flyer and here, regardless of whether they wanted it or not.
Right. I think as a principal, you have to take into account like the demographics of the area too. It said it was largely like a farming town and rural. It didn't say what state, did it?
No.
But basically like middle of the country, nowhere, where most people are Christian and not generally accepting of homosexuality. I'm guessing they didn't really provide a whole lot of background for that. But based on what they said about the area, I would think as a principal, you should probably be prepared for a lot of people to be upset about that.
Yeah, I agree. One question I had about the case is that I think someone mentioned that they followed a proper procedure in contacting the principal ahead of time so they can have the day of silence. But I was wondering if there was a procedure in place. As I read this, it seems like the website is instructing the children on how to proceed. So I didn't know if it was an established procedure by the school rather than the website that they sponsored by the Daily Legend Straight Education Network. They kind of told them, well, this is the procedure that you should follow. I didn't know if it came from the school. So the day of truth came, if there's no procedure in place already, then how do you get reprimanded if there's no procedure? Now, what Claudia was saying, which I agree with, when it comes to the students, and they're trying to force literature on students, then that's like aggressive behavior, and that should be addressed. But when the student came in, day one, he wore his T-shirt, and Mr. Jackson, the ninth grade English teacher, reported it to the principal. I was trying to figure out why was that necessary to report. Was he non-compliant to something that was already established? Did he not follow a proper procedure that was already established? Or did Mr. Jackson see that this was in conflict with the day prior? So did he see something like, hey, he can't wear that because yesterday we had a day of silence, and now he's trying to have a day of truth, and that's not what we want. I was just trying to figure that all out.
From the sound of it, it sounded like he was doing something in the hallway that gathered attention. That he was causing. It says that the teacher said that he was causing a disruption in the hall, is what it says in here.
Yeah.
And that makes me think that obviously he was doing something that gained attention and was going to potentially cause a problem in the hallway.
Well, one was the shirt.
Yeah, and the shirt, like, I feel like the shirt wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah.
No, initially, they were trying to make him take the shirt off. And the principal told him to remove the shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was
turn it inside out, and they dealt with that during the day.
Mm-hmm. And what were you saying?
That was part of the case. So.
Well, I was going to say, I feel like the shirt was a problem because of the disturbance in the hallway, and they were just trying to, like, stop everything that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So they were going to stop the cards and then ask him to turn his shirt inside out or to take it off. And I don't think it's not unusual for the kids to turn their shirt inside out if they can't fix the problem. I think that's why the shirt became a big deal, just because of whatever he was doing in the hallway.
Yeah, and I agree. Like, I think they were just trying to, like, the shirt by itself wasn't a big deal, but I think because of everything that ended up happening, they wanted to nip all of it in the butt before they kind of continued.
It could have been. Let me give you an example. We had a student come in. He's got a white shirt on, wearing uniform, but underneath the white shirt, he has a T-shirt that has the Confederate flag on it. All right, he's wearing this. He didn't say anything about any views. Everybody was walking around mad about it. And it became a conflict. And everybody was like, you can't wear that shirt. You can't wear that shirt. But he didn't say anything. But he caused a disruption because of the shirt. He was called to the office, and he was making it with a T-shirt. So you don't have to really say much to be considered as you're causing a disruption. Mm-hmm. It's being perceived as what you're doing. The message is coming from that. The way I read it, I thought it was the message behind the Day of Truth that was the disruption. And it made people uncomfortable because they knew the Day of Truth was more or less a religious attack against when I say attack, and you may use another word, against the gay, lesbian, LGBT community. That's how I felt about it, because when I looked at the case and they had a day of silence, I can see how they would be disturbed the very next day for someone to come in and have something in opposition to it. I think that's where the conflict came in. I don't know if he look at my shirt. Wearing the shirt and passing out the literature was a source of contention. I think the principal addressed it properly.
Well, and that was the thing. Like the kid didn't get in any trouble originally. Like they just said, "Hey, you need to stop? Like this isn't the way things need to be handled. Just go ahead and stop, and then go back to class." The bigger issue became that he continued and was insubordinate. And really, they didn't send him home for 5 days. He got 5 days ISS, which really isn't a huge thing. Like that's not something that's going to go as permanent record or anything like that. Like that's not really that bad of a punishment either. So it just seemed like it really. I get why the groups are upset about it, but I think they're missing the point and the reason why it became an issue.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I look at it, and I don't think the principal overreacted with the 5 days ISS. I actually think that the lawsuit is an overreaction to the 5 days ISS. Sometimes people are provocative because they want to send a message, and I think that this case went that far because the message was trying to be sent by this other organization. They was looking for a fight.
Who was looking for a fight? The second guy?
The organization that supported their truth. They were looking for a forum in which they can address the First Amendment rights and the 14th Amendment rights of those who are Christian. Because they're feeling like they have been made to be silent in school.
They feel like Christianity has been made to be silent in school?
Yeah, from the way I view this text, it seems like he felt like he couldn't express his Christian views, but they can express their views on lesbian, gay, straight, and transsexual preferences.
Right, I understand what you're saying. At the same time, though, it's not like, kids are going to be bullied for being gay, lesbian, transgender, whatever. When's the last time you saw a kid being bullied for being a Christian?
Yeah. Not too often.
I'm just curious, like the kids that wanted to do Day of Silence, right? They went, they talked to the principal, they gave the principal information, they gave him a couple days to kind of, stew over it, read the information, figure out what it was, give them kind of like yes or no guidelines on this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. I'm wondering if Blake, if he had done the same thing, would there have been such a big problem? Like if he had gone to the principal, said, this is what I want to do, because normally after a day of silence, there's a day of truth. And, I won't cause a big ruckus. And the principal had said, okay, just make sure you have to do this, this, and that. If there had been there would have been the same type of problem, as there was inevitably because he said nothing and he just decided to do it his own way.
Yeah, I think it's definitely all about how it was done, not necessarily what was done. It's not the content of the message; it was the way that it was done and the way
he went about it.
Yeah.
So you don't think that if he had said I wanted to pass out religious paraphernalia or pamphlets, that she would have said you can't do that due to separation of church and state?
Well, so I feel like schools cannot sponsor anything along those lines.
Right.
But if he wanted to have an information area as part of this Day of Truth, if he went back and said this Day of Truth is like an organizational thing, it's just like the Day of Silence, can I set up a table with some information?
Yeah,
just like the Silence people did, I think that would have been okay.
and that's in lines with the Christian athletes that we have.
Mhm.
And they meet in the mornings, and no one's forced to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like you would have had a little table and had some flyers on it, not be all like, here, read this.
Like, I don't think the school can sponsor something on just like any random day, but if the kid went up and said, this is just like the Day of Silence, it's part of this, this annual thing that's done after the Day of Silence, I think that he would have had a case to be allowed to do that. And I feel like a lot of places, especially if you're in a religious community, would have been fine with it if it was done in the same manner.
All right. Now here's the thing: the Alliance Defense Fund are the ones that supported the Day of Truth.
Mm-hmm.
He went to that website and he followed their protocol. So if their protocol didn't call for him to go to the principal, I feel like they had an agenda and they wanted this forum so they could address this issue openly, like they're going now. Because if he had went to the principal, it wouldn't be any controversy. I think that they wanted the controversy.
Right. You think the organization did?
Yeah.
That's out that way on purpose. Yeah. I mean, I agree. I agree with you.
Because the kid went to the website. He said that he went to the website, the Alliance Defense Fund. He found out how to do the Day of Truth. If he followed their protocol and it called for him just to show up the next day after a Day of Truth, after their silence, I think that they had an agenda.
Yeah, it would seem so. I don't know. I didn't go to the website and read the information. Did you guys?
Mm-mm.
Kind of try to dig into this and figure it out.
I feel like I agree. From the way the articles were in, I would agree that it seems like the Day of Silence, they really promote like, hey, you need to do whatever the school says, that kind of thing. And we don't see that with the other side. However, the way the articles were in, I also think it's a little bit more biased towards supporting the Day of Silence and those students. Just the way it's written, so I'm curious if that was conveniently left out or if it really doesn't exist.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That's why I kind of want to address the Day of Truth more so than the Day of Silence. But I'm in agreement with Claudia. I think both days could coexist. We wouldn't have these issues if proper protocol was followed by the Alliance Defense Fund.
And that's something that's something
to give the child more information, told him that he could have that day with this, and this is the way you do it. Talk to your principal so they can set you up a table, and then I think everything went smoothly.
Yeah, and
I don't think it's good.
That's something that should be in like a student handbook too. Like, if you want to do kind of like protests or anything like that, like that's something I think as school administrators you can help alleviate some issues here by putting stuff in your handbook about if you want to do this is the protocol you have to go through.
Yeah, it kind of made me concerned. Like, I need to have things in place ahead of time so I won't have to go to court. I think that the superintendent got involved and started getting hate mail, and all this stemmed from how the principal handled it. I'm glad she was supported. You notice how she had a lot of support. The principal did. You guys notice that? Like her superintendent backed her in her decision for the 5 days ISS.
Yeah, and then he's the one that ended up getting heat for it. Like after they stopped sending her hate mail, they started sending him hate mail.
And he had to do that in that community, which we know, and Travis was pointing it out, was a small community that was Christian, strong Christian base. So I'm like, a lot of this actually was in conflict with the community's desire. So I can see there probably was a lot of bullying going on. Anybody else?
I've got nothing. I mean, I'm on the website trying to look at the Day of Truth stuff.
Yeah. Well, we can address the 14th Amendment, because I understand about his First Amendment rights and the freedom of religion. And I think, like Claudia was saying, if he had did it properly, I think that, yeah, he would have had his day too. And his freedom of religion or his First Amendment rights would not have been violated. So I don't think they were. I think he just didn't follow proper protocol. But as far as the 14th Amendment, when they didn't follow due process, I'm not sure what does that mean in terms of this case. It also talks about equal protection under the law. I don't feel like he was not treated equal. I felt like he was just treated according to the situation. I'm looking at the other club. I guess they're saying that if that club was able to meet without any conflict, he would able to do what he would able to do. But I don't see how that applies to the 14th Amendment. Anybody knows how the case turned out?
I wouldn't think that the kid won the case. I mean, it didn't really seem like he had much of a case, honestly. Like you said, I don't think he violated his amendment rights or anything. It was the way that he behaved and the fact that he was insubordinate. That's really what it was about. It wasn't about trying to censor Christianity. It was about the kid didn't follow directions after he was asked to do something. He directly defied what he was supposed to do.
It's very different in a tanker case.
Does anyone have anything else?
Very different than that tanker case that you referred to. I think that the Alliance Defense Fund put him in a bad situation. I don't blame the kid. I blame the adult.
All right. Well, does anybody have anything else to add in?
Nope.
All right. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and close this thing out.
Okay.